Hi, it's me again, Marilyn from Flexique.com. I'm the creative director and founder of Flexique, the new and amazing product. If you have not seen the first two tutorials in the series, you might want to go back to Flexique.com and check them out. Number one, on how to prepare Flexique, and number two, how to use Flexique on its own. So for the third tutorial, we're going to show you how to use it on wafer paper. And at this point, you have it prepared and you've been storing it in your fridge. And this is how it should look. Very firm, very rubbery. You would not believe what you can turn this into. So you start out with this. You again heat it in the microwave, 15-second intervals, the amount you want. If it's a very little amount, you want to start maybe 10 seconds. Mix it, heat it again. Don't overheat it, it will overflow, I promise you that. But if it does, let it cool, and if it's a clean plate, you can pick it up and remelt it. It's not a problem. So at this point, you have a choice of add flavorings or colorings to it. If you add white, it will be opaque, and then you can add your colors. All your colors will be opaque. If you choose not to have it opaque and you want it to be translucent, just add your colors. You can use gel colors, you can use oil-based colors. I've used anything I had. You also can introduce luster dust at this point. Put a little bit in. We're going to be putting it on top anyway. And just have fun with it. I am going to be adding some white. You treat it sort of like isomalt, where it does not take very much to change the color. And you will see that it is now opaque. Okay? Like I said, you can add flavorings at this point, and you can also add color. I'm going to leave it white. And I'm going to show you several applications. We're going to put it on wafer paper first. I have already done this with the flags. This is about 4 hours old. You know how you have to drape sometimes things on a cake? I'm not talking wrapping around it. I'm talking about, like I have done on several of my cakes, drape the flag, and I've had to take the wafer paper or the icing sheets and put it on fondant and then put it on the cake, and I still get cracks. Well, this is only 4 hours old, and you can see that you have no problem with it cracking. You can do just about anything with it, and it drapes beautifully. Okay? So how we do this? You take a paintbrush in your warmed up Flexique and you paint right over it quickly, one side, then you flip it over and paint the other side. Now I know you're thinking that this is not going to be anything like fabric, but believe me, you will be amazed what it can do for you. Now, say I want to do a dress like I have done in the fashion shows. I need a much larger piece. You will need silicone to do it on. I've done it on plastic sheeting, sort of what you would cover your furniture with, but it works best on silicone. You have your one sheet done. Pretend these are the 8x10 sheets. I'm just showing you in miniature form. I will coat the one side, then I will slightly overlap the two, okay? And then proceed to go over the seam, and that's all you do. That seam will barely show when you're finished, and it will never come apart. It won't tear apart. It doesn't come apart after time. It is just becomes one. This stays tacky for about 10 minutes, and during that time, you have time to go find your luster dust or your cornstarch to coat it with if you want to use it right away. I use luster dust for the outside and maybe cornstarch for the back side. Cornstarch gives it a matte finish. Luster dust gives it a shiny finish. It's depending what you're looking for. And it does, you want to do that on the first day because it accepts the luster dust easier. After this sits for about 10 minutes and you put the luster dust on it, I have not done that on the flags, by the way. And you can see they're not sticky, they're just slightly tacky. I did that on purpose so that you will know that I can show you that it, even if it goes together, you can pull it apart. Tomorrow it will not be like this. Tomorrow you have a whole different product. It will be like this. It's absolutely not sticky. You can scrunch it up. You can, there we go. You can stretch it. And you can even cut out little shapes with your cutters, Martha Stewart cutters, or whichever brand you prefer. This is my favorite part of it. You can cut into strips and tie bows. You can make ribbons. I made fringe with it for the one dress for the fashion show. We show you how you can make a ribbon with it or tie a bow with it. You ever do that with fondant or gum paste? It just doesn't happen. If you make it thinner, it'll be like a shoestring. You make it thicker, it's like a big bow for a child's hair or a child's dress. I'm really into this because it's great for dresses. If you do bride and groom for the top of a cake, imagine how beautiful this would be for a bride's dress. This is a Flexique without the wafer paper in it. It's much thinner, but it still holds up to stretching, and it looks like satin fabric. This is about a month old. It will never get any firmer than this. This is getting to the point where I can put the luster dust on it, and I'll show you how I do that. When you put the luster dust on it, its tackiness goes away completely, and you can use it as ribbon or bows or draping the first day. It gives you a whole different texture. As you see, the next day it gets a little bit more firm, and it gives you a whole different way of using it. I'll do the one side, and I think we're ready to pick it up and flip it over. You want to be careful. If you do it quickly like this, I'm doing it a little bit quicker for you for your information. I probably would let it sit just a little bit longer before I did that. And then go ahead and either cornstarch with your little cornstarch puff, makes it easier. Or you can luster this side also. If I'm doing bows, sometimes I luster both sides because you'll see them. You'll see the inside also. But if you're not going to see the inside, as in my clothing, as in the dresses I made, I did not want luster next to my daughter's body. So I went ahead and lustered the outside, but I didn't luster the inside. Now you can see how this would be wonderfully draped over your cake as a bow or a ribbon instead of fondant. And then you don't have that problem with it failing, stretching, or cracking. I'm not saying this is going to replace fondant. It's not going to do that, but it is sure going to make life a little bit easier in many ways. You also can use the wafer paper on a texture mat. And that is how I actually came up with this, because I was looking for a birch bark for a bride. She wanted something to look more authentic. Trying to figure out how I can make fondant or buttercream look like birch bark and look like the real thing. I use wafer paper a lot in my cake designing, and it just came to mind that this would be something that would be a little bit firmer and would also hold up. So just something I tried, and I challenge everyone out there to think outside the box and see what you can come up with. You can also use Flexi on any kind of texture mat. Here I have a sugar veil mat. You know, as well as I do, they come in many shapes, sizes, and varieties from different companies. I'm going to use the sugar veil one because that's what I have. I liked the texture of it, this mat, because it reminded me of a birch tree bark, and that's what I was looking for. If you want deep grooves on your design, you would fill the grooves first with the Flexique before you put it on your paper, as we did before. You fill that in first, then you go ahead and proceed the same way we did, quickly putting it on the wafer paper, one side at a time, and then go ahead and put your wafer paper Flexique side down. Okay? And when you do that, then you go ahead with the other side, pressing it into the grooves lightly. Don't press too hard, don't drag too hard, because then you'll rip the delicate wafer paper. Then you'll proceed the same way you did with the wafer paper when you were not using the texture sheet. You wait about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, not too much longer, and then go ahead and put your cornstarch or your luster dust on top of that. And then you will have your textured sheets. This I did on a reptile sheet. Same thing, I think it is a sugar veil. And this is with the grass mold, grass silicone texture. All right. And then this is probably a month old, and you'll see that not only do you have a nice design on it, but it still has a lot of give to it. And this is one of my favorite things to do with the wafer paper with Flexique. This is about a day old. You want to make sure it's firm and not like the wafer paper that is done the first day. That's essential for it not to stick. I use the paper punches you can get at the arts and crafts store. Just fit it into your cutter, just like you would if you were making scrapbooks. And you get a beautiful snowflake. If you try to do this with fondant or gum paste, you know what would happen to the delicate ends to that. You can scrunch this up and it comes right back. Very fun. I've also done a butterfly here. One of the other nice things about Flexique is we use it as image armor. Now, some of you have seen that we have made business cards out of our Flexique with the wafer paper. We make printed images with our edible printer, with the edible ink on the wafer paper. Make sure that it is dry first. You want to wait at least 10 minutes before you put the Flexique on it. You do the same thing. You coat one side, you turn it over, coat the other side, and the same exact thing. You get the stretch, and now you will not have it breaking on you, and you will not have it getting watermarks on it when you drip water on it. If I were to drip water on this right now, I could dry it right off. You wouldn't damage the image at all. Super amazing, because I have destroyed many of these with buttercream or water. I'm sure some of you have. Also, you can use it on icing sheets. Now, you know how delicate those can be, how easy they are ruined if you drop anything on them. Immediately destroys the image. This is with the Flexique on both sides. This is a thicker icing sheet. I did this only about an hour ago, so it's a little bit tacky still. But if I put water or anything on this, you would be able to wipe it off right away and you would not damage it. It will get a little firmer, but it will not, just like the rest of the Flexique products, it will never get really hard or brittle. So I thank you again for joining me, and I hope that you have found this very useful. If you have any questions, go to our FAQs online at Flexique.com, and remember to like us on Facebook.